Good morning, good morning, good morning. I want to welcome everyone to our December meeting. We have a pretty special festivity to take care of this morning. And if you'd like to move right into that, I think we do that before we actually open the meeting, or do you want me to open the meeting and then do it?
We're going to do the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to move right to the swearing in.
Outstanding, let's do that. This morning's invocation, if you would all rise, is going to be given by Pastor Tracy Boyd of Grove Church.
Wow, how exciting.
Supposed to be over here. No, stay put. I was looking for you and you weren't there.
All right. What an honor to be here. Oh, Father, in the name of Jesus, we're just so grateful that we have this opportunity to gather in your presence and simply pray forth your word that says, your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We invite you to be a part of everything that is being done today, asking for your rule, your reign, your wisdom. And Father, I pray specifically for each one of these commissioners and even those who are being sworn in, that they would be filled with the spirit of wisdom and revelation as they lead and govern in this next season, that the people of Collier County would be so blessed by what you are doing through them and in our county. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Commissioner LaCastro, will you lead us this morning in the pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And since I didn't announce it, please everyone have a seat. I didn't really think it needed to be announced, but everybody take out your cell phone and make it sure that it's on the off position, please. We have a lot of really important things to do, and it's rather disconcerting while we're doing a prayer and a pledge and people's phones are going off. So,
If somebody's phone went off that was next to you, please point them out. Stand up and point them out right now.
we won't say Kathy Mayo's name out loud or anything. It is a matter of record. Terry sits down there and writes down all my misspoken words. So, well, with that, good morning, everyone. I'm really, really happy that you're here. Madam County Manager, will you lead us in the next set?
Commissioners, the oath of office for newly elected Commissioner Hall, District 2, and Commissioner Kowal, District 4, will be administered by the Honorable Joseph G. Foster, Circuit Court Judge, 20th Judicial Circuit, and it's going to happen now. Welcome, Judge.
This is a little bit scary, but we're going to let the judge lead the proceedings. Your Honor. Amen. You want us all down there, or just the two? Okay.
All right. Commissioner Hall, would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of County Commissioner
the duties of County Commissioner,
on which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And Commissioner Dan Kowal, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. You're already ahead of me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution of the Government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida.
that I am duly qualified to hold office
I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of County Commissioner,
the duties of County Commissioner,
on which I am now about to enter.
which I'm now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Amen. How about that? Well, how about that? Before we go on, while the room is full, I'm going to announce because I usually forget this, I'm going to announce our Artist of the Month. And if you all are here and you have an opportunity, we would like to welcome our local artist, Scott Brown, as our December Artist of the Month. It is his aspiration with his pastels, acrylics, and oils to offer original and unique paintings that will enhance your living space and brighten your world. Scott is also the director of Naples Coco Art Gallery, located in the Coastland Mall Center. The gallery is a not-for-profit cooperative operated by the Art Council of Southwest Florida that exhibits and sells paintings, photography, ceramics, textiles, jewelry, and such, all created by local talented artists. Scott recently finished a 60 by 15 foot wall mural of the Naples Pier at the inner entrance at Macy's department store. So prior to your departure, please take a moment and have a look at his art. It's displayed in the back wall. And then before we go on, I'd like to offer our two newest sworn-in colleagues a moment of, we'll start with Mr. Kowal, because I know you have something to say. So, if you would please, if you'd like to address your constituents.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody that's here today. This is quite a moment in my life. Never thought this is where my journey would take me. I started my life in public service. Well, started by serving my country in the military, and then through public service, through law enforcement, and thought that was pretty much it. But I guess I got another calling. I had something inside me that gave me the drive to run and continue serving the great people of this nation, this country, and of course Collier County. And I am blessed to live here, and I am going to do the best that I can to make every one of you proud and continue what we're so used to in this country, in this county, and how beautiful it is and the great things that's about it, and why we all come here and why we all make it home. And I want to continue that through my work serving you. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you. So, thank you. Thank you, people of Collier County, for putting us here. You know, when this all started, I just wanted to do what was right because it was right. And I wanted to understand the role of government was to protect and secure the liberties of the people first and foremost. So that's been my promise. And I wanted to bring some common sense back to our nation, starting with us locally. So the people have put me in this position, and I will do my dead level best to honor my commitment and to do what's right because it's right. And I'm excited, so thank you.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 2, agenda and minutes. Let me walk you through the change sheet first. We have several changes to the agenda. We have an add-on item 10B, which is a recommendation to receive an update on the current status of the proposed state veterans nursing home and the next steps in Collier County's formal recognition as the next site for construction. This is being added at Commissioner Saunders' request. We have an add-on item 11D. This is a recommendation to certify the existence of a valid public emergency for surveying, design and permitting, and post-design services required for the construction of an emergency berm necessary for protection of upland structures left vulnerable by Hurricane Ian, and to approve the issuance of a standard county work order to Aptum Environmental and Infrastructure, LLC, for an expenditure of funds for those services not to exceed amount of $187,636.25. This is being added at staff's request. Continue item 16C1 to the January 10th, 2023 BCC meeting. This is a recommendation to approve an agreement for sale and purchase with WISC Investment Company, LLC, for a .39 acre under the Conservation Collier Land Acquisition Program at a cost not to exceed $422,600 in District 1. This is being continued at Commissioner Saunders, Commissioner McDaniel's, and Commissioner LaCastro's separate requests. Continue item 16F5 to the January 10th, 2023 BCC meeting. This is a recommendation to authorize expenditures through an exception from the competitive process to JW Marriott, Marco Island, for tourism promotional expenses up to $100,500 per year for a 5-year period, and to make a finding that this expenditure promotes tourism. This item is being continued at Commissioner Saunders, Commissioner McDaniel's, and Commissioner LaCastro's separate requests. Continue item 16F6 to the January 10th, 2023 BCC meeting. This is a recommendation to authorize expenditures through an exception from competitive process to Visit Florida for destination marketing programs for a 5-year period in the amount of $150,000 per year, and to make a finding that these expenditures promote tourism, being continued at Commissioner Saunders, Commissioner McDaniel, and Commissioner LaCastro's separate requests. And my apologies, these originally appeared on the change sheet as being pulled to the regular agenda before they were then continued on. So depending on when we talked to you during the day, that shift ended up at the end of the day.
No sorry's requisite.
That's right.
There's a lot of moving parts on the day before a board meeting, so.
Just a note, companion items 9C, 9D, 11B, and 11C to be heard no sooner than 1 p.m. This is the Bright Shore Stewardship Receiving Area, SRA, Zoning Overlay, Community Development District, and Developer Agreements and Utility Agreement. We do have court reporter breaks scheduled for 10:30 and 2:50, and with that, that's all of our changes.
All right. County Attorney, you have anything you wish to add?
No, sir, thank you.
Well, before we go into setting the agenda, I would also like my newly induced colleagues to I think you have some guests here, and we didn't offer that up. So
okay.
if you would take a moment, Commissioner Hall, and introduce your family. I know you've got some special people here. So.
Well, my mom and dad have left,
Oh.
but Dot's still here, and Dot is my wife right there.
There we go. Commissioner Kowal.
Well, I got a few more. Well, my wife Lauren's still here. Our children, there's Lexus, Jacob, Samuel, Ramey, my parents, and friends, and little Phoenix, and just you're all my family. So, but those are the close ones. Thank you.
All right, well, let's go ahead and set our agenda. Commissioner Saunders, do you have any ex parte and/or adjustments to the agenda?
No ex parte and no additional adjustments to the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Commissioner LaCastro.
No ex parte, no adjustments, thanks.
Commissioner Kowal.
I do have ex parte on 9B meetings, 9C meetings, and no other.
Okay. Commissioner Hall.
I have ex parte on 9B and 9C and no others.
And I myself have ex parte on 9C. 9C, it does have emails and phone calls, and no other adjustments. So with that, I'll call for a motion to set the agenda as amended.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the agenda be accepted as amended. Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, same sound. So moved. 2A.
Commissioners,
two.
item 2A1 is the November 8th, 2022 BCC meeting minutes.
Motion to approve?
It's been moved to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes as printed. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, same sound, so moved.
Item 2A2 is a recommendation that the board appoint its members to the Community Redevelopment Agency, the Tourist Development Council, the Community and Economic Development Board, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, the Public Safety Coordinating Council, and the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council. And we will be also setting a date that those become effective, proposing January 1. I don't believe we're having a TDC meeting prior, which was the only outstanding question.
There's a RPC meeting, I think, coming up next week.
But you're the sitting member?
I am.
So the only issue was that we had a vacancy
On the
because of
TDC.
Commissioner Solis of the TDC.
Gotcha. Depending on how we ask Commissioner LaCastro, you have a comment?
Yeah, I've had 2 years of experience sitting on 3 of these 5 committees that are listed or being part of 3 of the 5. And just a comment, a personal opinion, before we sort of decide, who's interested in what committees. I personally think that when I look at my experience in the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee especially, and also the Public Safety Coordinating Council, I learned so much in 2 years, but also you have to remember that we're just one of the attendees of the committee. We're the one commissioner who attends. The committee is filled with people who serve for a lot longer. So the ability to learn a lot in these committee meetings is great for the commissioner, but for the committee members who serve for a much longer time, the chance for them to get to know a commissioner a lot better is also very valuable. So, what I feel on these committees in the past, sometimes as a citizen following, what commissioners were on what committees, it seemed like the commissioners sort of all had first right of refusal. Hey, I've served on the committee for 5 years. I'd like to continue for another year. And then, everybody else many times was silent. And then that person just got to automatically serve. This is just my own personal opinion before we open it up for discussion, but I don't think these should be Supreme Court appointments. I'd love to see another commissioner up here get a year or 2 of experience on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, on the Public Service Committee, on the TDC, so that we can add to our tool bag and not just have it be sort of a permanent type thing. And they all weren't, so I'm not sitting here lumping everything in, but I just know what I learned on the 3 committees that I was a part of, and it was very valuable. But I personally would like somebody else to have that chance, and I would like to learn something new and also meet other committee members and have them get to know me. And I think this is a chance to really put some thought into these different committees because they're very important. One point of order is we just had an MPO meeting in here, not too long ago, and Commissioner McDaniel, graciously volunteered to be the commissioner representative on the MPO advisory committee, and Commissioner Saunders is the deputy or alternate, I guess. So there's other committees out there other than what we just state here. So just as we sit here and sort of talk about the ones that we would like to be on or we'd like to stay on them, let's also think this is an opportunity to really spread the wealth and add to our educational base. Maybe, veer towards something maybe you don't know as much about, because I certainly learned a lot in the committees I was on, and I'm looking to, give somebody else, that chance rather than just kind of make it the way that it happens in Washington, D.C., where, you sit in the chair position until eternity or until somebody can dethrone you. And that's not what these committee positions are. So we have an opportunity here, especially with 2 new commissioners, to really have a mature and professional conversation to see how we can divide and conquer, but also steer our strengths and our weaknesses to committees that represent a very important role, in our community.
You know what I heard out of all that?
What was that?
Let's nominate the new guys.
No, absolutely not.
All right, Commissioner Saunders.
I'm glad you said that because I was contemplating nominating one of the new guys.
Second.
Let's start with unless you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, during some of my conversations with the candidates and then the newly elected new commissioners, I learned that Commissioner Hall has had a lot of experience with affordable housing and workforce housing. And I just want to throw out that we don't have to have someone who's had a lot of experience up here to serve on a committee like that. And so my question to Commissioner Hall is whether he'd be interested in doing that, because I know you had expressed a desire to work in that kind of an area, and this would give you an opportunity to find out real quickly where we are, and then you can help us get to where we need to be. So that was just a thought, and if that's something you would be interested in.
No, absolutely. I've already thought
Especially
about
in
it.
light of Commissioner LaCastro indicating that he's ready to move on to something else, and I think that would be a really good fit.
If it pleases the board, I'd like to take these in order, and then we'll nominate, we'll make sure Mr. Hall gets
Okay,
nominated for that.
I just want to throw that out for
housing.
the
I
new
like the
commissioners
idea.
that,
I like the idea, but
feel free to volunteer to serve on any of these. You don't have to have been up here for a while to do that. That's the point of that.
all right. Well, let's go back to the list here, and the CRAs, the Community Redevelopment Agencies. There are three actually in Collier County, 2 of which reside in District 4 and 1 of which resides in District 5. I'd be happy to continue to stay on as the representative for the CRA, and I'd like to ask Commissioner Kowal if he would assume that duty for the other 2 CRAs that are existing in District 4.
Yeah, I'd be happy to accept that.
Do we need to vote on these things individually or just do, yeah, but,
Individually, it's easier.
it's been moved and seconded that I do the CRA and Commissioner Kowal do the CRA, so it's been moved. I don't know if anybody seconded. Did you second it, Commissioner Saunders?
I will now.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, same sound, so moved. All right, next is the TDC, the Tourist Development Council.
Can I make a comment, or I'll push my button?
Sure, please.
I had a really interesting meeting with our county attorney on all these committees, but he brought up a point on the TDC that I thought was really valid, where he said, you know, all these committees are very important and influential, and this one specifically has a lot of significant importance to the community as a whole. And I don't know, Mr. Cloudskow, if this was something that was kicked around or it was just more of your opinion, but if you could maybe give your perspective on this committee in particular, and maybe what had been talked about in the past, and see if it has merit or support from the current commissioners.
Yeah, over the years, this has been the most hard-fought committee for the commissioners to get on, and over the years, there have been some difficulties on getting somebody appointed here because multiple commissioners would want it. And Commissioner Saunders had, I thought, a brilliant idea, just having the chair go sequentially by district number. It eliminated all the fight and the anger. And for something like the TDC, you could do the same thing. You could simply rotate it on an annual basis based on the commission district, either starting with the chair or starting with the vice chair, however you wish to do it. But it would end what I've seen as unseemly discussions by the board as people tried to get on the committee, or people were trying to stay on the committee over the years.
The other thing I wanted to add that you clarified, because I served for 2 years on the 3 committees that I was on, but correct me if I'm wrong, these are 1-year terms, so I guess at the 12-month point, I probably did what has happened up here for years, which is, yeah, I'd like to just stay on the committee, and then nobody objects, and it's automatically voted on. But correct me if I'm wrong, none of these committees are 2 or 3 year terms, right? They're all 12-month terms?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. And so, you know, that's a thought there too, that, you know, we've had commissioners in the past, you know, that have served an extended amount of time. And if there's a reason for it, somebody's expertise, but your idea, and I think it had been, you educated me that, you know, the chair, a rotation of the chair, and not just because I'm going to be the chair next. I mean, we were having a conversation about all the committees, but I just wanted, you know, my fellow commissioners to hear, you know, your thoughts on that, because I thought it had a lot of merit.
Commissioner Hall.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I love the thought of rotating. I love the thought of not sitting there forever. I do have certain interests that I would like to begin with, but at the same time, you know, the other committees, to be able to, whether I could input or not, or add to that committee, is really secondary to my willingness to learn and my willingness to be able to serve the public in different areas. So I'm in agreement with the county attorney and Rick's comments.
Well, I personally, I don't think the chairman, one of the thoughts, because I have an interest in being on this committee. I've had that since Commissioner Solis announced his not seeking re-election. So Well, how about if we, on a similar rotation basis, the outgoing chair moves into the TDC, and we go that way? How do you feel about that? That way there, it takes the discussion out, and the outgoing chair, I'll serve on the TDC this year, you'll get it, assuming you stay along and do your thing.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
That's certainly an option. I like what the county attorney said, and more, not for selfish reasons, but I just think putting it on the rotation of the current chair is, I mean, I know you have a great desire to be on that one for different reasons possibly, but, I like taking all the personalization out of it and popularity contest type of thing of who wants it more, and just putting it on a rotation with the current chair.
Commissioner Kowal?
I like both suggestions, I mean, like I said, I'm new to this.
Right.
I'll tell you, I don't want it, so.
I'll make.
So you eliminate me, and then you guys figure it out from there.
Commissioner Saunders?
I do like the idea of the rotation. The question we're dealing with now is where do we begin that rotation? Do we begin it with the outgoing chairman, or do we begin it with the incoming chairman? And I know Commissioner McDaniel, you've been looking for this for about a year now.
Yeah, more, but yes.
And so, and Commissioner Castro, this is certainly no aspersion in any way. It's just you're going to have your hands full here getting started real quick. And so I think having Commissioner McDaniel start that rotation the way he had said it, the outgoing chairman, so it's District 5, and then after that it's District 1. I would support that, just based on the history of this and the fact that Commissioner McDaniel has been vying for this now for a little over a year, and I think the incoming chairman is always going to have a pretty big plate.
I agree.
Full of issues.
I agree. My thought is, and it's something for us to remember, we are technically liaisons of this board to these individual committees. Everything that these committees do is a recommendation to this Board of County Commissioners for the ultimate decision. So it's an avenue for us to reach out and.
Just one other comment, if I might. All of these committee meetings are advertised public meetings.
Correct.
So any commissioner can attend it. It's not one of those things where only one commissioner can be there. So I would encourage all commissioners to attend whatever meetings they are interested in. But I think that starting that rotation, I think is.
I would agree with your comments. My biggest thing wasn't like what name was going to be in the TDC, but I liked the idea of the rotation. So, and I also like the idea that we unanimously, collectively support a decision, to go one way and not sit here and sort of split hairs on something. So I would, support a rotation regardless of what chair. And also you could make the case as the outgoing chair, you have a lot of stuff in your tool bag that you learned in the last year. And if the TDC is one of the more heavy committees where you need a lot of experience, then obviously you're walking into that first meeting with 1 year of chairmanship under your belt. And I would do the same in 12 months, and then Commissioner Hall would do the same, right after. So I really like that idea. So
Make a motion that we do that, rotate the outgoing chairman of the board into the seat of the liaison of the TDC.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed, same sign, same sound, so moved. Community and Economic Development Board. Commissioner Saunders is ready to hit his button.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I've never served on that committee and certainly would have an interest in that. I'll defer to other commissioners if there's other.
I'll make a motion, Commissioner Saunders.
But I would have an interest in serving on that.
It's been moved that Commissioner Saunders serve
Second.
on that committee. It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, same sound, so moved.
Thank
you. Let's do the, affordable housing. Commissioner Saunders has a motion.
Well, it was a question, and it sounds like Commissioner Hall would be interested in helping us out with that issue, so I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded that Commissioner Hall serve as our liaison for the Affordable Housing Committee. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, same sound, so moved. Public Safety Coordinating Council.
Can I make a comment on that one? Or?
Yep. Please.
You know, this one might be easy to just nominate Commissioner Colwell, but I think I've served on that committee for 2 years, and I bet I still know less than I know less about the sheriff's office and everything that he's dedicated his life to here in Collier County. So although it might be easy to say nominate him and have him sit next to Sheriff Rambos, which he did for many years, and Colonel Bloom. I stated in the beginning, I think rotation is important, but I'd be willing to stay on that committee for another year. But I also defer to Commissioner Colwell. I mean, in no way I'm in disparaging, like, you're overqualified for it. If you think that that's one that has caught your eye and you think, wow, I'd really like to sit in that meeting as a commissioner and not as a patrolman, and I really could do a lot. That is a very, very important committee. You sit next to the sheriff, you sit next to Amira Fox, Scott Burgess from David Lawrence Center, and a lot of key people, judges. And so, I just open it up for discussion. I'd be willing to continue for a third year, but I certainly am not here to fight anybody for the seats. And you've just taken a position in the CRA, so you're participating there. But if this is also a committee that is one that you've zeroed in on for very particular reasons, then I defer to what your comments are.
Yeah, I definitely feel this is in my wheelhouse, and this is all new to me. This is a new job, and I'm learning on the job. So I think I have enough experience in that area that, being part of that would be important. And I think I owe that to my brothers and sisters in uniform, in EMS, law enforcement, and every other part of public safety here in Collier County. If I can make sure we can continue the service they do provide, and through my help and my experience.
Well, that's what I wanted to hear, so I nominate Commissioner Colwell for that position.
Second. Love the idea. It's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Colwell serve as our liaison for the Public Safety Coordinating Council. I did that my first year in as well, and it was an enormous experience, learning experience as to the inner workings and hidden mechanisms of our law enforcement and judicial circuits and such. So, been moved and seconded for Commissioner Colwell. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign, same sound. So moved. And last but not least, the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council. And Commissioner Saunders is going to get to go first.
My guess is that no one wants to do that. No, I got to speak first, so I'm going to make the nomination. We were able to provide to the outgoing chairman, Commissioner McDaniel, something that was on his wish list for a couple of years, and that was to serve on the TDC. And I think as punishment, I would nominate Commissioner McDaniel to serve on that, again, unless somebody else wants to do it. But my assumption is no one's going to want to do that. And you've done such a great job with that for the last 6 years, 8 years.
Note that I've assumed a politically correct stance. Commissioner LaCastro.
I'm going to say something a little bit more complimentary because I've been the backup, and although I've attended quite a few of the meetings, Commissioner McDaniel, maybe even unwillingly is serving on this committee. But I will tell you in a positive way, when I attend meetings, I mean, this committee has had some bumps in the road, and it includes leaders from all over Southwest Florida. This one's not just Collier County, and I got to say I've really been impressed with the lead position that you've taken to make this committee more effective, higher participation, cut through a lot of bureaucracy. I mean, he has spoken his mind, and and this committee has needed it because at times the meetings, when they ended, I would think to myself, that's several hours of my life I'll never get back. But over time, he's actually made it valuable and has given very, very specific homework assignments and has actually done a lot of heavy lifting on his own to get the tarnish off of this committee and either make it valuable or, as he said at many meetings, then let's move on. I mean, if we're not accomplishing anything, then dissolve it. I'd love to see him in the next 12 months, especially not having the weight of the chairmanship on top of him, either complete the job and make this a very viable organization, or at the end of 12 months say, I gave it more than the college try, and this is just a group of people having meetings to have meetings, which at times you and I both attend, and we feel that way. Sorry for that, but I would second the motion and say really give it a big 12-month push. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, is this one of the nominations that does require a deputy or a vice or a backup, or that was just sort of a nice to have?
No, it does. It does. There are two of us, one lead and one backup. So you want to stay on as backup?
Well, I don't see anybody else screaming and yelling for backup, and I would stay on as backup only because you need some backup on this one.
And for the record, I will continue on. The reorganization of the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council is direly in need. We all know, especially us here in Collier, that regional communication, regional planning, regional discussions, water quality, water quantity, beaches, all of the things that we all share with our coastal communities and those communities on the interior are requisite. And the council has evolved, is a nice way of saying it, to a point where its functionality was certainly in question. We are all by statute required to be a member of a planning council, all counties in the state of Florida. And so it needs some help. We're almost there. I will accept the nomination, friend. And I am going to ask out loud that I have your support as well going forward, because it's going to take a louder voice in order for this to in fact transpire. There's a lot of bureaucracy, especially when you move into multiple communities and multiple counties, and a lot of politicians that, So with that, it's been moved and seconded. Commissioner LaCastro, you got something else?
Well, for after the vote.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Did I stay on with the RPC, we call it the Southwest Regional Planning Council, and the Commissioner LaCastro is the backup. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so moved. Got through that.
I was just going to end by saying, let's remember what we talked about here in 12 months. So when we come back here, if you feel like the committees that you're on, you learned a lot, then maybe that's the time to move on and let somebody else have the chance to learn a lot. But if there's something where you're uniquely qualified, or you're in the middle of something, please be very vocal and let us know, so we can really make what we just did now, which I think was a really informed discussion, and we didn't just sort of make it a popularity contest or whoever spoke first. So, thank you.
Like the idea.
Yep.
Like the idea. Let's go
Yes.
do some fun stuff.
All right.
Commissioners, that moves us to item 3, awards and recognitions. We have a number of awardees today. Let's start with our 20-year attendees. 20 years, Jose Dominguez, Information Technology Manager of Customer Relations and Application Management.
We're going to do them all at once, or just one at a time?
One at a time.
One at a time. Front and center. Outstanding.
20 years, John Gillette Jr., Water, Plant Operator 2.
Oh. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Don't forget your plaque.
20 years, Lorraine Lance, Capital Project Planning, Impact Fees and Program Management, Planner 3.
And as she's coming up and getting her award, I just want to say a personal thank you to her. She does an amazing job for our community. She gets mad at me a lot, but she's done an amazing job. There we go.
"20 years, Roosevelt Leonard Jr., Facilities Management, Review Appraiser 2.
There you are, sir. Outstanding. Jennifer wants a picture. Oh, look at that. The wheels are coming in for you, Roosevelt. There we go.
20 years, Leonor Montalago, Parks and Recreation Supervisor.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
20 years, Hamantha Ratanung.
There's your plaque. Stay put. I saw them moving behind you, so. That's it, yes.
That's it.
Okay. 20, we're moving on to 25 years. 25 years, Jesus Diaz, Fleet Management, Automotive Technician 2. And our last award, and it's a big one, 35 years. 35 years, Naomi Garcia, Emergency Medical Services Division Chief.
It's a lot, yeah. You'd be a 4-star general in the Air Force.
She started when she was 10.
Yeah.
And a couple more.
Chief,
Come on, Chief. Chiefs.
you can move over again.
Switch. Oh, there we go. And Naomi. Just so you know, I offered her an opportunity to speak and she chose not to, so. That's it. Yep.
Item 4A is a proclamation designating January 13th, 2023 as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Prayer Breakfast Day in Collier County to be accepted by Bishop Rick L. Neal and distinguished guests.
There we go.
He's getting promoted every 5 minutes here. I like that.
You may, please, please, please. Doctor. Doctor.
Doctor. Doctor.
Doctor. Better get your prize.
Get it?
Okay.
All right.
Good morning. My name is Pastor R.L. Neal. I'm the pastor of Trinity Community Church of Naples, as well as the founder and CEO of Trinity Life Foundation. That is a very active youth program that we've developed here in Collier County. This is our 4th installment of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Prayer Breakfast. That is our primary fundraiser. I want to say thank you to our Chairman McDaniel, our own district, Bert Sanders, Commissioner, and all of you for your support. And we pray that that 10,000 square foot building that's empty, you'll let us have it.
Ooh.
A little seed.
One at the golf course. All right, we have a presentation now.
Item 5A is a presentation of the Collier County Business of the Month for December 2022. To the Naples Money Managers, the award will be accepted by John Kincaid, Vice President of Wealth Management, and Don Litchfield Brown, co-founder, and Marcus Bickle, Portfolio Manager, Trader. Also present is Bethany Sawyer, Vice President of Membership and Investors, the Greater Naples Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Lady in red. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Nice to
Yeah, yeah, good to meet you.
Perfect. Would you like to say a few words?
Go down to the short level. It's really an honor. I'm kind of shocked when John told me about this. We want to thank the Greater Naples Chamber of Commerce for nominating us. And for me personally, this community is very near and dear to my heart. I came here in 1979. I moved here then, so I've been here a while. We opened our company in 1987 in the Village Falls building in East Naples. And many of you know that we believe in giving back to our community. But before you can expect anything from your community, we thought we had to give first. So we made sure we were extremely involved in as many things as possible, both politically, doing things like getting the East Naples Civic Association back on board, capital campaign chairman for the Shelter for Abused Women and Children, the Naples Therapeutic Riding Center. We could just name all of the charities that we feel like we've been instrumental in helping them grow. And with that has helped us grow, and it has built our integrity. We respect them, and we've hopefully built respect from the community for our company. We're one of the few companies left, independent financial companies. We provide financial management, financial planning, and a great double income strategy. I have to say that. John will kill me if I don't say that. For the last, since 1987, most independent companies have been come and gone during the 2008, 2009, 2000, 2001, 2002. They've all come and gone. There's only one really good reason we're still here, and that's because of this community and the caliber of the people that we work with. We bend. We try to bend, because if you don't bend, you break, right? So you have to bend with the new times, even the dinosaurs. I'm getting to be a dinosaur, so I'm learning from all of our next generation that's coming up. But most of all, it's this community who has supported us through all these years, and this is just a really nice testament to how much maybe you all appreciate us, and we certainly appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, before we move on to the next presentation, could we get a motion to accept the proclamation?
Oh, absolutely.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we accept the proclamation as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign, same sound. So moved.
Thank you.
Oh, I see the plaque now. Okay.
Item 5B is a presentation of the 2022 Great Places in Florida People's Choice Award to Bayshore Drive. The award will be presented by Wyatt Bowers, American Planning Association, Florida Chapter President. The award will be accepted by Karen Beatty, Chairwoman, Local Redevelopment Advisory Board, Bayshore Gateway Triangle Community Redevelopment Area. Also attending will be Maurice Gutierrez, Chairman, Bayshore Beautification MSTU.
Outstanding. Good morning, Wyatt.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm joined by our Vice President of Section Affairs, Tony Palermo, and as noted, I'm Wyatt Bowers, President of the Florida Chapter of the American Planning Association, which is a 3,000-member statewide organization. Since about 2014, we've been running a Great Places in Florida program, and this year, the chapter selected 4 semifinalists or finalists and then put it out for public vote. And the Bayshore Drive here in Collier County was selected as the People's Choice Award winner. What we did this year a little differently is we decided the Great Places program needed to be a theme. And so this year's theme was Healthy Places. And I think Bayshore Drive is a great example of a smart and healthy planning community area with the green bike lanes, for example, and the beautification efforts, and with the strong anchors of both the cultural arts district at one end and the botanical garden at the other. It's a great example of retrofit that you can do in a somewhat a suburban context, and it's a model that the rest of the state can look to. And so we'd like to thank you for the opportunity and congratulate you all on this award.
Absolutely. Come on over, Wyatt. Come on over here, front and center, make the presentation, please. I had a minor panic attack because there wasn't, the plaque wasn't up here, so I didn't know it was coming from in the back, so thank you. Ah, okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. Please, 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 if you would.
Karen Beatty, current chairwoman of the Bayshore Gateway Triangle Redevelopment Agency. I'm honored and have deep gratitude for this award. And I want to say this award not only goes to the current Bayshore Redevelopment Advisory Board and staff and the Bayshore Beautification MSTU Board, but also all past boards going back to the inception of this CRA. Also, this award goes to all staff, CRA staff, past and present, Board of County Commissioners, past and present, Sheriff's Department, Code Enforcement, past and present. This award goes to all of us. We worked together for a long, long time to make Bayshore what it is today. And I look forward to working with you further to grow Bayshore in some wonderful ways that will be for the highest good of the people and citizens that live there. Thank you.
I'm speaking out of turn just a little bit, but from all of us to you, past and present, thank you for what you've done for Bayshore and the enormous improvements to our community that have been contrived and derived by your efforts. So thank you.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 7, public comments on general topics not on the current or future agenda. Troy?
Mr. Chairman, we have 12 registered speakers today, 11 here in the room, 1 online. We'll begin with Richard Schrader. He'll be followed by Garrett Ethics Byron.
Garrett, if you would move to the other podium, if you, as the doc is getting ready to, and everybody, as your name is called, if you would just take a position at the open podium, we'll be able to move through. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning. Welcome, all the new folks. Dr. Richard Schroeder. At the September 13th Commissioners meeting, year 2 of a 3-year CDC grant that looks to be in the amount of about $1.3 million was passed unanimously that supports the community health workers for COVID-19 response. Ordinarily, getting more money to public health workers would be welcome, but not when the giver of the gift demands unquestioning obedience. So, to this gift, and this obedience through the last couple of years has demonstrated a lot of harm to society and caused untold suffering worldwide. The gift, as given by the CDC, requires compliance with existing and future directions of the HHS Secretary and the United States government to enforce the things like quarantine, isolation, lockdowns, masking, all of the things that have now been proven to be harmful rather than helpful in the recent COVID-19 debacle. So, and if you haven't figured it out by now, the COVID-19 pandemic is one of the most manipulated disease events in history, characterized by official lies from bureaucracies like the CDC, medical associations, medical boards, media, the WHO and the like, and treatments formulated by people who have no direct contact with patients, such as Fauci, Gates, EcoHealth Alliance, the CDC, Health Organization, and so forth. One of the biggest lies the CDC told over the last 2 years is that the vaccines are safe. And the evidence is now overwhelming that a whole host of new disease presentations not previously seen are being caused by the poorly tested and probably malignantly designed emergency use mRNA vaccines. This box of, can we have the box of chocolates back? Yes, sir. This is Forrest Gump's version of COVID-19 mRNA vaccine goodies. These particular diseases are listed in the Pfizer documents as complications of the vaccine that they tried to sequester for 75 years, but were eventually subpoenaed. And plus, these have high correlation with administration of the SARS-CoV-2 vaccines. These are decreased fertility, blood clots, sudden adult death syndrome, never before seen. These vaccines were administered, and Guillain-Barré, heart attacks, miscarriages, stroke, and so forth. Next slide, please. This is from the Department of, this is military data showing healthy young recruits with dramatic increases in deaths, myocardial disease, and rapidly growing cancers after vaccine administration. Very unusual for young, healthy recruits, mostly male. And slide 3, the final slide, is from the state of Florida's data analysis, Kyle Lamb, showing increase in excess mortality by age group following the beginning of the vaccine administration. And you can see that the largest hit is being taken by young people. And I'll leave it to you to decide what may be causing this and how acceptance of money from the CDC plays a part in all this. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Garrett F.X. Byrant. He will be followed by Dan Cook.
For the record, Garrett F.X. Byrant, and I have 2 awards to be presented today to our 2 new commissioners. And I was told by the Sheriff's Department to give the guy with the bushy beard, that's Mr. Kowal there, I'm supposed to give him this one. These are both from our favorite store, Walmart, but it's really interesting because it's a failed item, and the reason it failed was because it was too technical for people to understand that if you want to look in a mirror, you have to take the film off it. I looked at it, I said, I don't understand what it is either. But in any case, I'll show you.
Fantastic.
Sheriff's Department thought you would be the one that, they said something about a cactus. Now, if you pull it off, you push the button, if you pull off the film, you get the whole thing. You got to pull the film off.
No,
So it's a bad idea. Now look into it. See, that's your film. Look into it. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, lights up.
Yeah. That's right.
And you get the,
I don't really need to see into my future.
take the film off it, and then you push the button, and you look into it, and you'll do anything I tell you to do, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Yes. You're way back at
Every day.
Absolutely, Garrett.
Thank you.
Your next speaker is Dan Cook. He'll be followed by Desiree Brisky.
Well, this is a good segue. I've got a gift for all the commissioners as well, but it's in the form of a resolution from the Republican Party of Collier County. And I'd like to speak about generally the county's relationship with the federal government, and specifically the CDC, the Department of Health and Human Services. I echo a lot of the things that the doctor just said. This resolution that was passed by the Republican Party of Collier County last July notes that the World Health Organization is attempting to establish a global governing body to respond to so-called international health emergencies. And from my perspective, I think the connection with the CDC and possibly the World Health Organization in collecting data regarding COVID-19, the quarantines, potential for the collecting of the data from people regarding COVID-19. I see it as a violation of privacy. I look at the Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 23, says that every natural person has the right to be let alone and free from governmental intrusion into the person's private life except as otherwise provided herein, meaning except what's provided in the Florida Constitution. So the concern, I believe, is that by the county accepting this grant from the CDC, are there strings attached? Are there requirements from the CDC or the Health and Human Services Department to relay COVID data back to the CDC? And so that's the concern that I'd like to bring up to the board. And I'm not sure what is actually in this agreement. I'm not sure if it is reversible, but I'd just like to bring this concern to you guys to either consider sending that money back to the CDC and saying we're not going to be underneath the thumb of the CDC, or at least just consider this in the future when future things like this come down the ramp.
To the clerk, county attorney, either one.
Your next speaker is Desiree Bursky. She'll be followed by Chris Fuller.
Hi, good morning, everyone. First, want to wish everyone a blessed Merry Christmas. And Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Cowell, congratulations. I always appreciate this opportunity to be able to talk to you guys. My concern is following up from the last two speakers. I would like to request that Dan Cook and Dr. Richard and myself and any others that are interested get to meet with you all on a one-on-one basis, because as we all know, this is not a place for interaction. It's for us to, deliver our concerns. We know what's happened over COVID. The last 2-3 years has been hell on earth, some places worse than others. Florida, we kind of scathed through. Governor DeSantis helped us. But I don't believe that we should be accepting money from the CDC, which is by way of instruction of the World Health Organization, no doubt. My other question is, which other counties in Florida, which other commissioners in the counties in Florida have accepted this like money from the CDC? I believe that this is the only one and that it's 67 within the whole of the United States. I would like to request that all this money goes back and that we maintain our sovereignty. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Chris Fuller. He'll be followed by Kathy Mayo.
Good morning, gentlemen, and congratulations, new commissioners. I was living in France for a long time, for about 15 years, and during the COVID crisis, I realized that when you're living in a collectivist state, they almost unconsciously worship authoritarianism, state power. And I realized that when we were locked in our houses for 23 out of 24 hours a day, and we needed papers to justify whatever we were going to do during that hour outside, I realized that I didn't want to raise my children in that, and I wanted to raise my children in freedom. Governor DeSantis seemed to be doing some good work here resisting the COVID narrative, which was put together by some very nefarious networks that include the World Economic Council, Bill Gates and his foundation, the CDC, which is absolutely discredited. The CDC has blood on its hands, gentlemen. And we've watched some nice photo ops today and some handshaking and some patting on the backs. If I had known that Collier County was going to be the only county in Florida to accept CDC money last year, I wouldn't be living here. We want to know why you took that money, and we want you to send it back. The CDC, think about it. Look into it. You do the work. That's not my job. That's your job. When you accept $400,000 from somebody, you better know who you're accepting it from, and you better know what they're buying. Now they have a foothold in our community. You want to talk about local liberty? This is it, right now. And this is a litmus test issue. Line is drawn in the sand. They're already wargaming the next pandemic for 2025, just like they wargamed the last one in October of 2019. And it's going to be more lethal. And they're pushing right now vaccines, still vaccines. For 6 months now, six-month-year-old children, they just last week said, let's keep going. We need to vaccinate these healthy children. Are you thinking men? Are you men with hearts? Wake up. Now's the time. Decide which side you're on.
Your next speaker is Kathy Mayo. She'll be followed by Jackie Key.
Good morning, gentlemen. I would also like to say congratulations to Commissioner Cowell, Commissioner Hall. Thrilled you're both sitting up there. I'm confident that you will both do what you promised to do. And us, as your constituents, heard a lot of promises during your campaigns, and I know you'll follow through. So I'm really excited to have this new board up here. We're hoping and praying for you to fight for our God-given rights, as many of my prior speakers have addressed. There's a lot of issues and problems in our country, but us as citizens of Collier County, we have a lot of concerns, and it starts right here. As many of you know, I was just reelected as the secretary of the Collier County Republican Executive Committee. I hold myself out as an America First, pro-God, pro-Constitution, pro-life, pro-gun, and pro-America person, woman. I can define a woman. So I'm very passionate about all of that, all the above, and I believe we the people have spoken, especially here in Collier County, through getting like-minded patriots like you folks, as well as the new 3 school board members, Kelly Lichter, Tim Mosier, Jerry Rutherford, and the CCREC. This also just happened in Lee County and their REC, and Charlotte County, and many, many other RECs throughout Florida, which we plan on joining forces and have Florida be the Patriot state and have it spread throughout the rest of the country. So yes, we the people have spoken because we've had it up to here with all of the woke ideologies, the un-American policies being shoved down our throats by this administration from the COVID pandemic, the created economic crisis, the out-of-control inflation, and, of course, the border crisis, which affects all of us here. We know they're being dropped off in the middle of the night. Every single city, county in the entire United States are border cities and counties. It's no longer just along the border. And the reason why Biden hasn't visited the border is because there is no border. So I ask your support to help us with all these requests, resolutions. Many of us will be asking for you to fight back against all of this tyranny and make Collier a sanctuary county for our constitutional rights, our Bill of Rights, and we just help all of you. Oh, that's it. Help with all these issues. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Jackie Key. She'll be followed by John Harney.
Good morning, Commissioners. My subject today is on hate, which I'm seeing a lot of in this room, so it is a very timely subject. Many in our country have been indoctrinated to hate other Americans simply because of our differences. Indoctrination on this level occurs when you have political leaders inflaming the pre-existing hatred that people hold in their hearts. Hate can only grow in the heart of a person who hates themselves. Such hatred has led to oppression, abuse, bullying, violence, and even murder across our nation. Hatred is toxic, and it perverts, destroys, and sabotages everything good in a person's life. Hate locks you into an never-ending self-defeating behaviors. Likewise, it darkens your souls and sends you on a downward spiral of mental, emotional, and physical suffering. Such people become so miserable and hateful with age. Prolonged hatred can lead to chronic stress, depression, lifelong addictions, a compromised immune system, premature aging, and death. Hatred destroys the people and relations and essentially turns previously good people into agents of destruction. Love and hate cannot exist in the same person. You're either filled with love or you're filled with hatred. Hatred drives you to do evil things. Hatred is the intention to eliminate the humanity in another person. Those with hatred in their hearts gravitate to each other and form alliances to gain power and control via abusive, evil, dishonest, and manipulative methods, which I see a lot in this room. I will now paraphrase what the Bible says about hatred. 1 John 4:20. Anyone who says they love God and hates a brother or sister is indeed a liar. 1 John 3:15. It is murder to hate a brother or a sister. Such people do not have access to eternal life. Hating others is the same as hating God. Satan is hate. Loving others is the same as loving God. Jesus is love. Love is patient, kind, keeps no record of wrong, is protective. Love is not envious, abusive, arrogant, rude, selfish, or easily angered. Love does not take any delight in evil. According to the Bible, without love, your good deeds are worthless to God. As I look across our community, I see a lot of toxic leaders coming into power. And I don't have to identify you or call you out because your behaviors will call you out. So thank you all very much.
Your next speaker is John Harney. He will be followed by Rayanne Burton.
Good morning. I'm John Harney from North Naples. I'm a member of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. I also advocate for Habitat for Humanity. I'm here to talk about affordable housing this morning. The Growth Management Department, Planning Commission, and DSAC have fully endorsed the proposed land development code changes. These are designed to accelerate and provide incentives to builders who can help us improve the current difficult environment for affordable homes in Collier County. There is a need across the board in our population: public sector workers in the city, county, and state, healthcare workers, hospitality and retail workers, and seniors. The Census Bureau reports that 33% of the county residents are over 65. Seniors are under stress from the rising cost of property insurance, health care, and food. This will make it difficult for senior homeowners to remain in their residences. Many will have to sell and move to pay their bills. Seniors are the fastest growing group of homeless people in the United States. Do we want to lose these residents who are here today because they can no longer afford to live here? All of these residents are valuable to our community. Developers are working in a let's make a deal environment with the county. They take a project from the beginning to the end, and a decision is made at the end by the county commissioners. This is not a viable long-term way to develop affordable homes. It's working, but at lower numbers than it could be otherwise. We have the opportunity to regulate and increase the number of new multifamily residences faster, less expensively, and with better support for our community. Please schedule a special session for the new rules to be reviewed and approved after consideration by the commissioners. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Rayanne Burton, and she will be followed by Michael Mogill.
Excuse me. Good morning. My name is Rayanne Burton, rural Golden Gate Estates. Welcome, Commissioner Howell and Commissioner Cowell. I hope I pronounced that right. I look forward to hearing how you vote on issues and concerns of the taxpayers and the residents of Golden Gate Estates. Whether you will listen to the concerns of the residents and protect our quality of life, or cater to the whims of the developers to increase density, which has already impacted our daily commute with traffic congestion, even accidents, and endangers wildlife. It now takes leaving at 7 a.m. to get here from Everglades Road in the Estates over an hour due to traffic. Both Randall and Golden Gate Boulevard are now congested at these times. The taxpayers who pays your salary elected you to adhere to the mission and guiding principles stated on your commissioner's website. But it seems that the demands of the developers are adhered to while ignoring the concerns and well-being of the residents. The developers use affordable housing in one meeting only to remove the next meeting, stating only an option, or threaten to not build panther corridors needed because development has disrupted their panther habitat to get what they want. They disregard the Golden Gate Estates Growth Management Plan, reducing boundaries between impacted residents and development so they can increase their densities, unit densities. Commissioner webpage states, mission, deliver high quality, best value, public service, programs and facilities to meet residents' needs today and tomorrow. So far, seems only developers' needs are met. Guiding principles, honesty, integrity, service, accountability, quality, consistency, respect, knowledge, stewardship, collaboration, self-initiating, and self-correcting. We live here. Most of you don't. We pay the taxes. We elected you to protect our quality of life and keep the estates rural. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Mike Mogill. He'll be followed by Lauren Hankley.
How's the weather, Michael?
Weather is great. Wait till the weekend. Good morning, everyone, and to the two newly elected commissioners. I want to talk this morning briefly about a planned development on Immokalee Road. I believe the code number is a PUD rezoning 2022-000-3213 and 2908. It's put out by the Neighborhood Company.
Hang on one second, Michael. This agenda item is for today's agenda and future agendas, and if this is an item that's coming before us.
Well, what I want to talk about is process. I don't want to talk about the plan itself. I want to talk about the process.
Well, you named a specific project.
Well, I think it pertains to all projects, and that's the reason I'd like to talk about it. I'm sorry I enabled it, but this is what I went to, and I want to report on it because I think it's important. The homeowners work.
I'm not arguing.
We're not treated well in this hearing, and it's a GMD issue.
You named a specific project.
Okay.
So this item is for subjects not on today's agenda or future agenda.
Okay.
So if you have an issue with the process, as a lot of our friends here have talked about in other regards, speak about the process, not about that project, please.
All right, then I'll speak about something different.
How about the weather?
I hope that, well, I want to talk about the weather.
Okay.
Well, no, that's going to be on a future agenda item too. I'm really putting my foot in my mouth here. I'm just going to make an offer then, and I'll come back at another time with a more general thing. You mentioned the Regional Planning Council.
I did.
I'm willing to, even though I'm overloaded, I'm willing to put my name out to be a community representative on that and share my meteorological, climatological, and other expertise with the council if they wish.
Outstanding.
No obligation required.
Well, it does require a gubernatorial appointment, but I'll help you through that process and make sure you're on the list.
Oh, I didn't want to go that far. I just wanted to help out.
You have to take the need.
I don't like bureaucracy.
Join the crowd, my friend. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
Your next speaker is Lauren Hankley. She'll be followed on Zoom by Elizabeth Rady.
Hi, good morning. I don't usually get involved in local politics for obvious reasons. I am a very busy stay-at-home mom of 3 kids, 5 and under. My husband is in leadership at a local hospital. He's an executive. And I wanted to speak about the difficulty that we've found becoming permanent residents of Collier County. We moved here from Clearwater in May of this year. We were outbid multiple times on homes, and we were unable to buy a home. We ran out of time. So from there, we had to find a rental. With 3 kids, we were discriminated against blatantly, told multiple times we won't rent to a family with young kids. Our place isn't appropriate for young kids. The neighbors downstairs will complain. So we had to rent a place that was going to undergo renovations. Now, as we're moving out of there, because snowbirds are moving in January, we're moving to a place that won't do a lease term longer than 6 months, and it's $2,700 a month. Now, we make over 6 figures. My husband's got a good job. We have no debt. We have great credit scores, and I wanted to come here today. It was extremely difficult to come here today, to be here today. I probably won't be back just because you can see it's very difficult, but I represent a lot of different constituents who are at work, who are stay-at-home moms, who can't make the time to come here on a Tuesday at 9 a.m. to speak to you about the seriousness of what's going on in our community and how difficult it is to create a stable life for our children when we have to consistently move and try and figure out which 6-month lease or which 3-month lease or whatever they're going to allow us to do. We're going to go to next. We are not people who ask for handouts from the government. We're not people who are looking to the government to get involved in our lives. But whenever the community is being overtaken by investors and we can't...
Look at that. Now, how's that for a county attorney? I'm going to give him a round of applause.
And we can't become permanent residents here despite our willingness to, despite the hard work. I was a paramedic. I would work overnight on an ambulance. I would work in an office during the day. My husband, he's worked 3 jobs at some times to get our financials in a place to where we should be able to live here. But even with our circumstances, we're having a hard time. So I can't imagine for people who don't have 2 parents in the home, for people who just physically can't get here today. I wanted to come here despite how hard it was, just to represent on their behalf that the sampling here is biased. People who can be here are here. So I just wanted to be a reminder that we're out here. Thank you.
Your final registered speaker for item 7 today is Elizabeth Rady. Elizabeth, you should be prompted to unmute yourself if you'll do so at this time. And there she is. Elizabeth, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, good morning, commissioners. First off, I wanted to vocalize my concerns about the affordable housing appointment. I, as acting head of the Collier County Tenant Union, of course want to work with everybody. But when I'm blatantly told that if I can't afford to live here, then I should move by the commissioner that you are actually appointing to the Affordable Housing Committee, that's a problem. I would honestly, like to know what somebody who doesn't think that if I can afford to live here, that I should move, is going to bring to the table to affordable housing. And how is that going to represent anybody in my situation or who I represent? I am advocating for affordable housing. I have people left and right calling me every day asking for help because they're not given any notices. There's no affordable housing. You guys have no actual short-term solutions, and your long-term solutions are between 3 to 5 years. There's nothing. And it's very concerning to me that we would just turn around and decide, hey, let's just skate it down the road. Let's just ignore what's happening. There are so many things that people are trying to bring to you and bring to the table that you're ignoring, that you're continuously just passing the buck to, continuously passing it to the next meeting, after the next meeting, after the next meeting, and nothing is getting done. As I said before, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. But what's even worse than that is when you pretend to want a different outcome, but yet still want the same thing. And that is what we see from our board members. The hope that our community is losing and the faith that we're losing in you is drastic. A lot of the community are living in their cars. My actual resident doctor asked me if I could help him find an affordable place to live. Now that should tell you something. That's pretty scary when your resident doctor can't find a place to live. We, as a community, need to start coming together, and we need to start working together. And we need to do it not with agendas, not with ulterior motives, not with what is going to promote each other and make money for each other, but really because we need to meet the needs of those in our community, all of the needs. And right now, our commissioners are not doing that. The past commissioners have not done that. And based on the personal things that I've seen from real estate agents, they're not interested in doing that either. So honestly, where are
Thank you, Elizabeth.
affordable housing going to be living?
Elizabeth, thank you. Your time is up.
That was our final speaker under item 7, sir.
Oh, and that takes us, Commissioner Saunders has a comment, and then we're going to take the court reporters break.
I'll take less than a minute. There's been a lot of conversation about the CDC grant that the county had accepted, and I'd like to have all the facts on the table. When this grant came up, we did have staff talk to us about what that money was going to be used for and what the strings what strings were attached with it. So I think, especially for the benefit of the new commissioners, I think we need to have staff give us another analysis of what that grant was, because I don't think it's anything sinister. My recollection is that it's providing a lot of funding for, not for COVID, but for a lot of folks that need some health care from our health department beyond that. So if you could arrange for that this morning or this afternoon, just 5 minutes on what that grant was. If we did something that was inappropriate in accepting it, then I want to know that. I don't think that's the case, so I just want everybody to hear all the facts.
Absolutely, we're working on that right now.
Quick report this afternoon when we come back?
Sure.
Cool. Got it? You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
I mean, I saw you. You don't need a strobe down there. I saw you light up. Commissioner LaCastro.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, and I had already sent a note to the county manager that added to that. I mean, the point was made that no other county in Florida accepted the money, which I'd be flabbergasted if that was the truth. But if it is, I'd like to know that fact before this meeting's over, and that shouldn't be hard to confirm. Totally different topic, but I do want to amend the record. I did have some disclosures, 9B and 9C. I had meetings and correspondence and emails for 9B, and 9C I had meetings. So if that can be corrected and added to the record, I'd appreciate it.
I think there may be a little bit of confusion. The disclosures that we do at the beginning of the meeting on the consent agenda are for items that are on the consent agenda.
Right.
Other
Okay.
land use matters that come up, like the ones you're talking about.
Well, when we get to the point,
Yeah,
okay.
we have to disclose that at
And
that time.
I erred this morning. Somebody write that down. I made a mistake. And I actually called out my disclosure on an item that we're actually going to hear, and that was my mistake.
Well, when you did, I thought we were doing it, so that's why I wanted to.
It was my mistake. I was nervous. Nah, not really. All right, we're going to be back at 10:42.
Chair, you have a live mic.
Good morning, everybody. If you would, please, we're 2 minutes behind as it speaks, so let's go forward here.
Item 9A is a recommendation to review and approve the 2022 Combined Annual Update and Inventory Report, AUIR, on public facilities and schedule of capital improvements as provided for in Section 6.02.02 of the Collier County Land Development Code and Section 163.3177, parens 3, parens B, Florida statutes, and adopt a resolution that it updates the 5-year capital improvement schedules. Mr. Mike Bosey, your Director of Planning and Zoning, will present.
Thank you, County Manager. My name's Mike Bosey, Director of Planning and Zoning, and here to discuss the overview of the 2022 AUIR CIE. It's a annual update and inventory report. The AUIR is a one-year snapshot in time of the projected needs and the required capital improvements for the next 5 years based upon projected population increases against BCC adopted levels of service. It should be noted that this equation changes on a regular basis as the demand changes. This is a report that is provided to the board every year to make sure that the infrastructure and services that our residents have grown dependent upon are maintained at a specific level, that we provide for the growth that is needed to handle our new populations without it having a detrimental impact upon the levels of service from any infrastructure provider. So what's included? You've got your category A, or those are your concurrency facilities: roads, drainage, potable water, wastewater, solid waste, parks and rec, schools, and they're all tied to your capital improvement element. Your capital improvement element is a component of your growth management plan. That's the highest regulatory document that the county possesses. It's the system that makes sure that if a new development comes on, there will be capacity to handle the additional demand that's created by that new development. One of the long-standing mantras of Collier County has been growth was going to pay for growth, that new users have to pay their incremental expansion for the systems to be able to handle the additional growth, the additional demand that they will put upon the services. Category B, jails, law enforcement, libraries, emergency medical services, in government buildings. And we also have a C, which is beaches and inlets. Both of the non-concurrency facilities are a little bit different. They aren't applied at the development order stage. But we do maintain a level of service, and the AUIR is how we make sure that we're maintaining those adopted levels of service. And I mentioned concurrency. And it's facilities and services necessary to maintain the adopted level of service standards that are available when the impact of developments occur, which are contained within the CIE policies in the Land Development Code. During this year's AUIR review with the Planning Commission, we have not identified any modifications or any proposed modifications to our adopted levels of service. And then the concurrency management system is, again, part of the capital improvement element of our growth management plan, ensuring that public facilities and services needed to support development are available concurrent with the impacts of such development through the concurrency management system, or we also call that the checkbook concurrency, making sure that we have enough revenue within our checkbook to be able to provide for the projects that we need to make sure that our levels of services are maintained. When you have a rezone application, we do a courtesy review where it's not a hard application of the capacity that's available. It's when we have a development order, which would be a site development plan, or a plat for a new residential development, that is the actual hard application of that concurrency management system. And one of the key components to determining what is the level of improvements that are needed is we have to project our population out over a 5 and a 10-year period. Per Florida statutes, we utilize the University of Florida's Bureau of Economic and Business Research, commonly referred to as BEBR, and we use the medium range projections, but we also have a seasonal increase. I mean, we all know in February and March that the amount of traffic, the amount of activity within the county is higher than what it is in, say, January. We've arrived upon, and we've had a 20% increase for our seasonal population. And those numbers are field verified through trip count stations, water use to manage, wastewater demand, solid waste disposal, those type of things. So we make sure that we're always accommodating our additional seasonal visitors in the increases in demands against our individual systems. This here is a chart of the AUIRs back to 2017 and the amount of population increase that we had expected. And if you look from 2017, 2018, 2019, we were steady. We were about 1.97 to about 1.9 or 1.9. And then last year, the BEBR's projections dropped down to 1.77%, and this year they've revised it down to 1.5% population growth. Now that could be expected because as we grow larger in population, that percentage of increase decreases because of the large number that's associated. I mean, right now we project a permanent population of 388,000 folks. So if you're adding 29,000 people, that's going to be a little bit smaller decrease than it was in 2017. But I did find that as a curious fact that the University of Florida is expecting our population to somewhat decrease, or our population increases to slow down a bit. And that will be something that we will most certainly pay attention throughout the years based upon the COs that we're issuing, but also the year-to-year repetitive nature of this. And it's the one aspect of the AUIR CIE that has a true benefit. It's an annual review. So if we see things that are anomalies, if we see things that are starting to become trends, we can take the appropriate actions to adjust to those.
I have a quick question. How do these numbers compare out to the model, the Collier Interactive Growth Model?
The Collier Interactive Growth Model is a little bit, just a tad bit more aggressive in terms of what the expectation of the population is. And I think you can see where there's sometimes, if you look at the 2021 number, the BEBR-based projections, and that was before the decennial census, they had projected us at 394,000. And then after the census, the 2020 census, we realized that we had gone, that the projection from BEBR was a little bit higher than what the reality was. And it's actually, I've actually spoken with David Farmer, one of the principals for Metro Forecasting, and his personal opinion is the 2020 census did somewhat of an undercount. So it's going to be interesting to see what the numbers will be from the 2023 moving forward next year.
I'm aware we are relegated to utilize the BEBR numbers and the median BEBR numbers in our GMP and such. You and I know that model out there, it does in fact exist, and I just wanted to know what the comparison was.
And I will just let the rest of the board know the Collier Interactive Growth Model was a growth model that was developed in 2008, 2009 as part of the EASA 951 Horizon study, looking out how the county was going to deal with growth and development to the east and ultimately the build-out population. And it projects your population, it projects your square footage from commercial, from industrial, from institutional, schools, your infrastructure providers. And we utilize that Collier Interactive Growth Model as the backdrop for all of our long-range plans, our long-range transportation plans, our long-range utility plans, our parks master plans. So we use a common number for our population projections, so we have a commonality amongst all of our long-range plans. But it's been a long-held additional planning tool that we utilize. So how do we figure out how much we build? And the easiest example would be libraries. And it's your new population, it's multiplied against your level of service standard, and that equals your capital improvement. So for the 5-year period, we're projecting 29,386 people. The level of service for libraries is we have an adopted level of service. For every person, we have 0.33 square feet of libraries. And so you would take that standard, multiply it times your population, and it says that we would need over the next 5 years to maintain our level of service standard 9,697 additional square feet. I will note that the Planning Commission did ask staff for next year's AUIR to examine the level of service standards for libraries because of the changing nature of libraries. One of the things that you're finding is within most library systems, you can get an app on your phone towards where you can rent and you can withdraw books from the library system through the apps. So you're not physically going into the library to peruse the archives or the offerings. You're doing it remotely. So that throws into questions. The Planning Commission says, what does that really mean in terms of how much square footage do we need to maintain moving forward? There's a lot of other things that the libraries do in terms of providing additional computer space, additional children venues, those type of things that are still in demand. But it's still, it's a evolving equation in terms of that. So we plan on having some analysis, some detailed analysis when we bring the AUIR CIE back to the Planning Commission next year, and ultimately the results will be provided to you for decision makers in terms of any adjustments that you may seem appropriate for the level of service standard. But it's not only population. Population is a key metric, obviously, for levels of service. It's based upon for most facilities, but there are exceptions. Road and bridges, they actually use traffic counts, and it's collected multiple times throughout the year. But it also has a reserve capacity for trip bank, for projects that we know that are approved, that have not been developed yet, that still have residential units associated with them. That becomes part of that background, the background number, so we can make an accurate determination as to how much volume is there left within the transportation system based upon that reserve capacity as well as the trip counts that we have. Within wastewater and water, it's a combination of historical demand usage, population projections, plus an additional capacity, where the Board of County Commissioners has said, we want to make sure that we can flush the toilet when we need to flush that toilet. If you have to wait for a swing to open up at your park, that's one thing. But if you can't flush your toilet when the need's there, that's a much different thing. So there's some additional capacity that's incorporated within to the level of service standards for our wastewater and water.
Before you go forward, I just want to ask a quick question. How does the AUIR feed into the CIE, the capital improvement element? How does that data feed into the capital improvement element known as the CIE?
The AUIR has, like I said, your Category A, your Category B, and your Category C. We take the Category A facilities that are being proposed, and that's what makes up our CIE, which we amend on an annual basis. So the Category A facilities from within the AUIR are extracted, put into a resolution, and that comprises our update to our capital improvement element. Stormwater, we have basin studies from the water management plan that sets a baseline. And then we have solid waste, we have landfill disposable capacity. I won't take too much of the thunder away from our public utilities department, but I always talk about, people sometimes criticize government as inefficient. But I've been working on the AUIR CIE since 2007. In 2007, 2008, it was estimated that we were going to run out of landfill by 2017. By 2017, and that trying to sit a landfill, you think some uses are tough to propose next to a property owner. Suggest a landfill, and you can realize that the NIMBYism. Our our utilities team has taken that through system expansions and working with waste management. They've extended the life of that landfill to 2062. 2062 is when and I think they're soon to start to talk to the board about having to sit a new landfill, because it takes that long of an effort. But I think about how much of a benefit that was provided over this last decade of taking a facility that we thought we were going to be out by 2017, and we've extended it now past 2060. So I think that's one of the great examples of what local government can provide in an efficient manner to the citizens of the county. And then we have our coastal zone, which are our adopted master plans and sustainable standards for our beaches. We understand that has taken on quite a hit based upon the recent activities of a couple months ago, but we are most certainly provide for a schedule for how that renourishment is going to happen. Too much of an eye chart here, just to let you know, the projects that are contained in our CIE right now, $1,643,958,331. That's the price tag that's associated with the planned improvements over the next 5 years within our capital improvement element. The specifics of it, we're going to have presentations from our Category A facilities after my overview is done, and they'll get into some of what the due is within the schedule of capital improvement programs. And then ultimately, the staff and the Planning Commission's recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, and Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Quall, the Planning Commission makes recommendations to the board, and the board makes the final decision. And their recommendation was that the BCC approves the 2022 AUIR, approve the Category A, B, and C facilities relative to project and revenue sources, that the BCC approve the Category A facilities and the schedule of capital improvements updated for the CIE resolution, and find that there's no inconsistencies with the Collier County Public Schools capital improvement program and their facilities work plan. The school district adopts their plan in September. We just recognize that there's no inconsistencies, and we identify if there were inconsistencies, but we recognize there's no inconsistencies between their capital improvement program and our capital improvement program. And then from that, like I said, we have individual department heads to be able to provide an overview of their proposed improvements. And the first will be Ms. Trinity Scott, related to transportation and stormwater. And any questions that the board may have related to the overview?
No one's lit up.
Good morning. I need to drive a little bit here. It'd help if I could see too. Oh, there it goes. Sorry about that delay. Trinity Scott, Department Head for Transportation Management Services. I'm going to start with the road and bridge section. Why we do the AUIR specific for the road section is it allows us to plan for our limited resources, maintain our level of service for key facilities, and also, as Mike talked about, leads right into our schedule of capital improvements. So our adopted level of service for transportation for facilities that have been 6-laned is a level of service E. I use this graphic because it allows folks to see what kind of the differences are between level of service A through F. So level of service A is free flow, not a lot of folks out on the road, not a lot of vehicles on the road, where level of service F is congestion, gridlock. Our adopted level of service for facilities that have not been widened to 6-lane is a level of service D. This allows us time to be able to have the facilities come online. So what does this mean? You hear a lot of things about traffic, a lot of concerns about traffic. January, February, we get the influx of seasonal residents, and certainly
We feel that pressure when we're sitting for that extra traffic signal or two. But we do not build our roads to accommodate peak season. I'm going to quote a predecessor of mine, Norman Feeder. He was the former Collier County Transportation Administrator. We do not build our roads for Easter Sunday. We build our roads to accommodate the traffic for the remaining portion of the year. We assess our level of service and what we bring to with the AUIR based on the PM, peak hour, peak direction during non-seasonal times. So for most roads, that's eastbound in the evening and northbound. However, as you get to the southern portions of our community, that does turn southbound when you're going, say, to Marco Island. So how we do it? We have level of service threshold volumes that are determined utilizing standard software. That determines our capacity. We determine the existing directional traffic. As Mike discussed, we collect traffic counts on the roadways multiple times during the year. They are factored to determine the peak hour, peak directional volume. We take the capacity that the roadway can hold. We subtract the amount of traffic that's on it. We also subtract the trip bank for projects that have been approved for a site development plan or a platinum plan. And that gives us what our level of service is today. How we decide what roads need to be widened in the future is we apply a growth factor to that. And that growth factor is the average of the historical growth factor, so we keep track of that every year, or 2%, whichever is greater. And we apply that and we grow that traffic until we get to a year where it would exceed the level of service. And those are our planning timeframes. So what our anticipation is that by the time we get to where that roadway is exceeding its level of service, we either have an improvement already well underway to that facility or a parallel facility. So we don't always just focus on that roadway. We'll look at a parallel facility. Immokalee Road is case in point. Immokalee Road reaching its capacity. However, we have Vanderbilt Beach Road Extension, which will provide for relief to Immokalee Road.
Yeah.
One quick question, please.
Sure.
Trinity, what is a trip bank?
Okay, so when a development comes forward and they get their zoning, their next step is to go to growth management and they apply for a site development plan or a platinum plan. And that typically means that construction is imminent on the project. So when they do that, they also provide a traffic impact statement to state how many trips they anticipate during the PM, peak hour, peak direction. And so it's kind of like a checkbook. We go ahead and reserve that capacity in our overall system for that development. So the process for us is we assess the network, we project the future needs, we identify the deficiencies, and we develop recommendations. Tying this back to the MPO board meeting that all of you were at last Friday, we utilize the county interactive growth model that projects what roadways we're going to need in the future. The AUIR really helps us with the timing of those, of what we need to get in place in the next 5 to 10 years. So example of your long-range planning and your short-range planning working together. And here's just a sample of the projects that we anticipate going to construction over the next 5 years. Vanderbilt Beach Road Extension Phase 2, which will pick up where the current project ends from 16th and go to Everglades Boulevard. Picking up at Everglades Boulevard, widening from Vanderbilt Beach Road up to Oil Well Road, and also Wilson Boulevard 4-laning between Golden Gate Boulevard and Immokalee Road. So as you see that our growth is pushing east, we get a lot more emphasis on roadways in the east, but that does not mean that we don't have facilities that we're widening in the urban area. We have improvements at Pine Ridge Road, also programmed within the 5 years near the interchange area, and Vanderbilt Beach Road widening from US 41 to east of Goodlet. And in addition, the Collier Boulevard widening Phase 3, which is the section through Golden Gate City. And that's just a sampling of the projects that we have that are included in the packet. With that, I'll take a pause and see if you have any questions with regard to transportation before I transition over to our stormwater.
Carry on.
So we have a vast stormwater infrastructure here in the county that we maintain. We have 408 miles of major canals. 150 miles of those are maintained by the county. 6 stormwater pump stations, 81 major water control structures, 370 miles of stormwater pipes, and 687 miles of roadside swales. So our current adopted level of service varies by basins, and it is based on the discharge rate that we allow developments to be able to discharge their water into those receiving bodies. So the projects that we have to maintain that level of service and address those receiving bodies have much to do with a capital replacement program where we are doing capital replacement of outfall structures, channel dredging, cross-street culverts, et cetera. In addition, we also implement our stormwater basin studies. We recently completed a master plan in the Immokalee area, so many of the projects that you see within our proposed 5 years are implementing those studies that have been come to fruition. And finally, a large portion of our stormwater projects are partnership projects with public utilities. You hear us many times coming in for these joint contracts where we are working with our utility providers, not only Collier County public utilities for the water and wastewater, but also the city of Naples, where they are going into, say, an older neighborhood where they're replacing that aging infrastructure. And while we're going to have the road opened up, it is certainly beneficial to partner and do those stormwater improvements at the same time. So some of those projects are Naples Park, Palm River, Old Laley, West Goodlet Frank area, Harbor Holiday Lane, as well as Golden Gate City. And with that, I will stop if you have any questions with regard to stormwater. If not, I will turn it over to public utilities.
Jump back to stormwater, if you would. Commissioner LaCastro first, then me.
I just want to make a comment and say I think one of the things that you said that our public really needs to understand, and you quoted a previous person that said we don't design roads for Easter Sunday. So often as commissioners, we hear from citizens who say, you're not doing enough to, I'm sitting in traffic, it's unbelievable, nobody's doing anything, but, that's called season. And so as you said, and it's not just us, when you say we don't design roads, FDOT is a primary organization that has a lot to do with I-75 and some other areas. And I really think that the public really needs to understand that we're not oblivious to traffic, but that's what happens in season. And we're not going to make roads 8 lanes so that for a few months out of the year, traffic flows a little bit better. And also, too, that's taxpayer dollars that's being used. So it's not a matter of just make the roads wider. So I've heard you say that at other meetings. I think it's very astute. And it might not be something everybody agrees with, but it's the direction that is used by us, FDOT, and all across the nation that, they don't make the road the widest it needs to be on, the day before Thanksgiving or, like you say, Easter Sunday. So I think it's a really eloquent comment that maybe not enough people have heard. So thanks.
Thank you, sir.
And my question had to do with the planned look back on impacts of Ian. We were enlightened by many deficiencies in our stormwater systems at large because of that event, and I'd like to know what our plans are with regard to managing those hot spots, if you will.
So what I would say, and I see our county manager perking up, what I would say is
perking up.
Your best stormwater management system is not designed to accommodate a 5-foot storm surge, sir. In fact, our stormwater management system actually functioned pretty well during Ian for the level of rainfalls that we received. However, in those areas that received storm surge.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about the storm surge. I was talking about the 16 inches of rain and 12 in the event that came in advance of.
So not specific to Ian.
Well, specific to Ian, but it didn't have to do with the surge. I'm quite aware that our system isn't designed to manage that level of surge. My question had to do with the rain event in advance of, and then in fact during the storm.
We're continuing our emphasis on our maintenance program for stormwater, which is probably one of the most important things that stormwater does. While we focus on capital projects, and there's lots of conversation about them. It is the day-to-day maintenance that keeps those systems functioning, as well as extends the useful life of those systems. We know that there are significant deficiencies in Golden Gate Estates, and the growth going on in Golden Gate Estates is exacerbating that. As we continue to work through our funding issues, and the board has generously provided additional funding both on the capital side as well as the maintenance side, we plan to grid out, for lack of a better term, Golden Gate Estates and look at it in section by section. Some sections of Golden Gate Estates work well, others not so well. And as we see the growth going that direction, it's going to be something that has to be identified. And it's not exclusive to Golden Gate Estates. That just happened to be the area this year that was troubled the most by an aging stormwater system. This happens throughout the county. There are areas that are low-lying. Those are harder to deal with. Those with virtually no stormwater management system, very difficult to deal with, but the emphasis on maintenance is incredibly important, both at street side as well as in those major conveyance ways, dealing with vegetation management, being sure that we're keeping after that removal of trees. We had a huge push a couple of years ago to clear areas that hadn't been cleared in many, many, many years. And so our plan is to continue not only that aggressive maintenance, but to continue to articulate the need to partner with the South Florida Water Management District and other grant agencies where it's practical, and to come to the board with those ideas and concepts, and to properly staff that section, both with resources that are in-house as well as external.
Going forward, it would be my hope that at some stage we have a look back as to the experiences that we learned during the event, and then certainly after. And it wasn't just Golden Gate Estates, it was in the urban area as well. And I want to hear from you where your obstacles are. I know one of the big obstacles is the DEP and getting through the environmental concerns subject to, or that are subject to, the dredging operations. It's in an oversimplified statement, it's math. If you create more volume, you have a capacity to move more water. And we all travel. We all are going to be in Tallahassee. Many of us will be in Washington, D.C. And so I need to hear from you what your obstacles, in fact, are, so that while I'm there, I can hopefully open the floodgates to literally to be able to assist with that, just because not just Golden Gate Estates. There were inland waterways in the urban area that have been constrained for a millennia, and that just can't handle the capacity of water that we were having to deal with both pre and after.
If I may, one more thing is we've known, you touched on something important and difficult, is that we've known probably, I have actually a map in my office, we've known for over 20 years that what we call an inland dredging program is needed. It's expensive and difficult, regulatory challenges, but we have really started the process of identifying those areas. And when I say inland, I don't mean inland, way inland, but it's to delineate between the dredging program we have for the major navigable waterways and those that we need to dredge for conveyance. Now, if navigation is an added bonus to that, that's fine. But I can name right here 6 places probably in the county that are on the list that are going to need some dredging in some form, and exacerbated by both Hurricane Irma and now Hurricane Ian.
Okay, Commissioner Hall.
So, being new, I find this AUIR fascinating, and my common sense curiosity wants to know twofold. Number one, how has this process, in your experience and your time, has it been functional? Has it been appropriate? And number two, with Governor DeSantis creating Freedom Town USA, as Mr. Bosey said, the percentages are down a little bit in population growth, but the amount of actual people are up. And we see that, on the roads. So is there a process in place to address those anomalies, or just your thoughts on that?
So what I would say with regard to the stormwater management is, with our new county administration, I think when Amy was being interviewed, one of the things that she said was that if it meant telling you the truth even if you didn't want to hear the truth. And so being properly resourced and being able to have those conversations with the board is something that I believe, based on our conversations, Ms. Patterson and I, are going to be things that we're going to be having those conversations with the Board of County Commissioners and having those real honest conversations about the future staffing needs that we have, or that we need additional resources to enhance maintenance efforts, so that we can have those strategic, so that we can extend the life of these facilities.
I guess I didn't make myself clear. I was reverting back to traffic.
Oh.
So how has the process worked so far, and how do we deal with the anomaly growth that we've seen in the last year or 2 years?
So from a traffic perspective, it really leads back to that long-range transportation plan as well, and also those partnerships with land use planning. Much of our growth has been to the east. However, in the east, there are not goods and services to be able to accommodate the residents on a daily basis. And so they're coming in to the western part of the county, which is a big influx for us. So as these villages and these towns continue to grow, which is a population growth for us, but they're also bringing along goods and services in other parts of the county. So what it allows us to do is have doctors, banks, employment centers in the eastern part of Collier County, so that you don't have to have this westward, big influx of traffic in the morning and the eastward in the evening. So we'll be able to actually use both sides of our roadway, which right now we use one in the morning and the other side in the evening. So that partnership with good land use planning, that helps us with those anomalies. Sometimes with transportation, you have a little pain for a period of time until you get a roadway online, and then we see this relief. Vanderbilt Beach Road Extension is a fine example of that, a project that should have been built at least a decade ago. When that roadway opens, we will see some immediate relief to Immokalee Road. So sometimes we're a little bit behind, but we catch up.
The goal is to get caught up.
Yes.
Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Chair. My question is going to go back to stormwater management. We all know that maintenance is one of the most important things in stormwater management, because on a daily basis we get rain, we get silt, those type of things start building up in our storm drains, just the simplest storm drains in somebody's community in their street. I guess my question is manpower, boots on the ground. Our own facilities, our own wastewater management team here in Collier County that we employ, that's responsible for the daily maintenance, not so much the contracted things of new facilities and dredging it's outside of our everyday scope. But how are we in our own wastewater management department? Are we to par in employment and numbers? Are we vacant? Or we have an issue with employment to keep a daily maintenance program going, to get ahead of these problems before they become a problem?
From a stormwater maintenance perspective, and the AUIR typically deals with capital, but I'll put on the maintenance hat. We actually do a pretty good job of keeping the positions filled. In our road maintenance and stormwater maintenance division, we do have a lot of where we move folks up. We promote from within. I will tell you that it is probably under-resourced, and we're very reactive with regard to our maintenance programs. With our new administration and being able to bring those plans and programs in front of the board, I believe that we'll be able to resource them more appropriately to get to a point where we are more proactive from our maintenance standpoint, instead of getting that phone call from a resident, I have water coming up and we're running out, and trying to address the problem. So I would like to see the road and stormwater maintenance become more proactive as opposed to reactive. And that's just the quite frank answer of where I believe that we are right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, George Yilmaz, Department Head. Mr. Mike Bose summarized it very well, including some of the kind words he shared with the board. And this exercise, AUIR, is originated from older rule 9J5 and definitely enhanced and adapted to reflect Collier County needs to provide a high-level overview on a policy level and planning tool on a very high level for our policymakers and leadership to have a sense of, are we concurrent with our supply and demand? Are we meeting the demand? And I'm pleased to report to you today that for Collier County Water Sewer District, yes, we are meeting the demand for our current customers, and we will, and we're positioned to meet the demand for next 5 year, more known developments that this board approved, and all of those future customers will have quality water, wastewater service, solid waste services. And for the long term, that's our master planning process. So I'd like to highlight that AUIR is a high-level planning tool as a snapshot to show the board next 2, 3, 5 years. We do have our resources, including capital program, operations, human resources, and borrowing capacity to meet the demand. So I'm pleased to report that to our board and our leadership. The requirements are very simple in terms of service level for our line of business. The question our Commissioner Hall asked, common sense. The population is one of the many variables. Common sense is we look at our flows, and we have a checkbook, goes concurrent to our concurrency, clearly showing what kind of trends we have in our wastewater, water, IQ water, and that's our common sense back check to stochastic database, which has multiple sources and input, trying to figure out what our growth and growth pattern is based on population increases forecasted. However, our data shows, in terms of growth, it is much more aggressive than population projections. I mean, wastewater, you monitor it. Water, you monitor it. Solid waste, curbside collection, we know how many customers come on board. So our level of service reflects meeting the demand. I hope that also answers your question. Having said that, I just want to also highlight magnitude of operations. Collier County Water Sewer District is one of the largest water sewer provider east of Mississippi, serving 120 square miles area and over 250,000 customers. We have produced and delivered 10 billion gallons of high quality, safe drinking water to our customers. And every gallon of that 10 billion gallon has to meet our quality standards so that we can make baby formula 24/7. And our sewer system has been resilient with our leadership in county management and our board's leadership. Investment we made in our resiliency definitely showed between Wilma, Irma, and where we are now, and we're not done. We will be more resilient. We only had 3 discharges reported for this event that inundated our system. So going back to solid waste operations, I'm pleased to report that we meet all the solid waste concurrency requirements, including 2 years line cell capacity every year for the next year. And then we have to have 10-year permitted capacity in addition to 2-year line cell capacity. The difference is, one, you have the capacity approved by the board and by the regulatory agencies in advance. but you have the line cell capacity being built every 2 years, and every day we have that capacity for next day. So that's the concurrency requirement we have for solid waste operations, and I'm pleased to report to you that we met all those requirements. And our facilities, government facilities, our Deputy County Manager, Ed Finn, has been very active, and he's gonna address, along with our new facilities director, if there are any questions or presentations to be made there. But I'm pleased to report to you that first time our facilities, government facilities, do have enterprise asset management currently being utilized that rolls into capital outlay, maintenance, operations, and if there are any questions, we have competent directors in charge. So with that, I have my 3 directors here, all licensed professional engineers, and they are ready to answer any questions you might have or presentation further to make on solid waste and hazardous waste operations, water, sewer, IQ water.
I think we're all set, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
How do you
for the
rate?
record.
Troy fixed that for you, and he makes everybody else do their own.
Thank you, Troy. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Tanya Williams, your Interim Public Services Department Head. Troy, can we actually back up and go to Category A, Parks? We'll start there before we dip our toes into Category B. So your Parks and Recreation Division is the one Public Services Department division that is part of the Category A concurrency piece. And we have 2 level of service standards for your park system. One is for your community parks, the other is for your regional parks. Level of service standard that's set for your community parks is at 1.2 acres per 1,000 population. Regional parks sits at 2.7 acres per 1,000 population. All total between the different categories of your parks, be them regional, community, neighborhood, and your preserves that are part of the Conservation Collier program, you have a total of 91 properties and facilities at your disposal. In regards to the regional parks standard of our level of standard service, as you can see by the graph, we are in a surplus for the next 5 years as well into the 10-year. Your AUIR is a planning tool. It's a very well-used planning tool that takes us out to a 10-year projection so that we can start designing and working our way towards meeting the demands as our populations increase. As noted on the slide, your 5-year surplus is sitting at a little bit over 320 acres of regional park space. Just a quick visual of where your regional parks sit. It's not just what you would classify as a regional park that has a regional park in the name of it, such as North Collier Regional Park. This also includes your beach access points and your marina access points. So it is inclusive of several other types of areas besides just the normal park. Community parks, we are showing a surplus as well, all the way out to that 10-year projected period of time. At 5 years, we're looking at just over 46 acres of surplus. Obviously, that slowly decreases as we start reaching that 10-year mark. Your community parks are located within, as the name suggests, communities within 5 to 10 mile radius of the community in which they are constructed. And of course, you have community parks scattered throughout all of Collier County. You'll notice as when we segue into the library section of this presentation as well, you'll notice where your community parks are situated. You have them grouped in the western corridor area of the county. And then you have empty space as you start moving eastward until you reach the Immokalee area. Part of our level of service standard also includes our conservation Collier properties that have been turned into preserves. Your preserve acreage sits at a little over 4,300 acres, and you've got over 37 miles of trails that are located and available to the public through these preserve areas. Your Conservation Collier Preserve location map just gives you a general idea of where your preserves are located. In regards to the capital improvements, because parks is part of that category A, which requires concurrency, you've got capital improvements within the next 5 to 10 year plan that includes Paradise Coast Sports Park, and then it also includes the final phases of your Big Corkscrew Island Regional Park. Just some statistics about how your park system's being used in comparison to the prior year. Obviously, beach parking permits are up. You've got facility rentals that are up. Field usage hours are up. Memberships are up, as well as our visitation is up. Visitation to our parks sits a little over 2.3 million visitors a year. And with that, I am available to answer any questions about your parks AUIR.
Commissioner LaCastro.
Ms. Williams, you and I have talked about this before, but I really want to say it in a public forum. So the slides obviously show that we have a large amount of parks and large areas covered. But one of the things I know that that you're doing now, but I really want to just stress, I hope we continue to accelerate it, is taking a closer situational assessment of every park. And what I mean is, when I get an email from a citizen who says, a water fountain's been broken for a year in such and such park, these are real examples, as you know. Light bulbs in the Little League field have been out, blown out for 8 months. Having citizens do our job for us is embarrassing. And when I personally ask somebody in this building who's a leader over the parks and they're unaware, and then we do find out that our team at the park is aware, or they've been trying to fix it, or they change the yellow police tape around the broken water fountain every 4 months, until somebody figures out what part we have to break off of the International Space Station to fix that one water fountain. That's not acceptable. I want to give you some praise, and also Mr. Rodriguez, when he was over a lot of what you've taken over now, that I liked the idea, and I hope it's continuing to gain acceleration of situational reports on all these parks, so that our teams that are at the parks and have, as Commissioner Cole said, boots on the ground, are reporting back to senior leadership, hey, we have a kiddie pool that's been out of commission for 6 months because we're waiting on a pump. And no time frame on when that pump is coming. And then, one of the commissioners here brings it to the senior leadership attention, and then, wow, what a miracle, it's fixed tomorrow. We really need to limit that. And I know you agree, because we've talked about this, but I would love to hear over time here an update on those situational reports of this long list of parks. And it doesn't need to be a deep dive, but giving us confidence that we have knowledge of where things need fixing, maybe where you need our help, maybe where we need to move some money around, or something that truly is non-functional for a specific reason, and not just negligence, or a contractor who maybe says, I don't know when I'll get the part. Okay, well, there's other people out there we might be able to get the part from. So this just sort of reiterated to me how much acreage we have that we call parks, but they need a lot of care and feeding. And I'll end it by saying, I'm almost always embarrassed when a citizen brings to my attention something, and then I do a little digging and find out we knew nothing about it. It was very dated and dusty, and I thank the citizen for that. But I know you're working really hard to make sure that those things are the exception and not the rule, and that we truly do stay on top of maintenance and care and feeding. Lastly, I'll say it's and the county has been guilty of this before, where we have a little league season that happens on a softball on a little league field, and then after the season's over, then all of a sudden we do all this incredible maintenance where we should have done it before the little league season. And it wasn't maintenance to fix the big little league season. They actually played on the field in its worst condition, and then we made it beautiful, and it sat there for 3 or 4 months. And that's not an over exaggeration. And I know you know those examples. So I just appreciate what you're doing. I know that this is something on your short list to just make sure we take a much closer look at our parks and make sure that the maintenance and the upgrades and the oversight is as tight as it can be, and that at the highest levels here in this building, we're pushing as much as the teams at these different parks are pulling to keep everything at 100% functionality, I should say. So, but thank you for what you're doing, and continue to keep the accelerator pedal down on those situation reports, because I think it's showing to us a lot of areas where we need to take some action and much quicker and smarter. But thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCastro. And you are correct. There are areas that we can still improve. And that's something that I'm working with your interim parks director on, Alima, taking that ownership and taking that ownership down to the frontline staff that are at their parks every day. We've had some really good discussions with facilities. Parks and facilities are working hand in hand to make sure things don't fall through the cracks. Unfortunately, as you alluded to, we did have one regarding a pump just recently. Staff were aware of it. It just didn't work its way up the chain of command so that we could have that high visibility on it to make sure that it was corrected as expeditiously as possible. But I hope, it's not a hope. I stand here before you to say it will be corrected, and we will continue to monitor those areas. And the next time I'm before this board, you'll hopefully have a different message that you'll be making as public record.
I love that answer. I do want to add that Alima, her sense of urgency, I might bring something to her attention that maybe we didn't know about at 6 months old and all the things that I just said. But once it's been brought to her attention, especially since Hurricane Irma, because I've had a lot of areas in District 1 and parks and beaches that we've discovered a lot of things. Her sense of urgency has been and yours as well, but has been very impressive. Not only knocking it out, but sending photos and things so that then we can answer a constituent and say, we weren't sitting on our hands. On the flip side, at times it is disappointing to her when something's brought to her attention. She says, God, I can't believe that at the higher levels we didn't know about this, because we could have been very instrumental in a much faster fix. But thank you to you both and to the team that you represent.
Thank you, sir.
Let's do libraries.
All right, libraries. We will now transition into Category B. This is a non-concurrent aspect of your AUIR. But no less important. I come from the library world, so this is parts near and dear to my heart. Your library AUIR has one level of service standard that was set by the board most recently way back in the 1980s. Current level of service is based on square footage per capita, and it was set at 0.33 square feet of space per capita. Now, keep in mind that the square footage, as Mr. Bosie alluded to at the very beginning of his presentation, the Planning Commission was very interested. It was the first time I'd had that much face time with the Planning Commission. They were very interested in how libraries had changed, how people using the libraries have changed how we provide services, and the pandemic actually accelerated a change in patron usage. But the point I want to make before I move on with the AUIR is that square footage of your library space is not just for the 600,000 printed materials that are on the shelves throughout the 10 libraries, but it's also study quiet reading space, it's meeting and programming room space, it's obviously staff work areas, it's technology access areas, that includes computer access, and then just general use space. As of September 30th, you have an available inventory of 174,082 square feet. We have a required inventory in the next 5 years of 166,661 square feet. Obviously, that puts us in a 5-year surplus. However, as we start projecting out to that 10-year mark, you will start seeing a deficit in square footage. You have libraries that exist across all 5 commission districts. Regional libraries take up 30,000 plus square feet. You have 3 regional libraries within the county. That's South Regional, South Regional, Naples Regional, and Headquarters Libraries. So here is the actual deficit as it shows graphed out over the 10-year period. Again, as I noted with your parks, I want to show you where your public libraries are situated. You have obviously the bulk of your libraries along that western corridor of the county. You do have a library in Marco Island. You have a library out in the estates. And then you have a gap in library availability until you get to Immokalee. Everglades City does have a library. It's a 900 square foot room that is also housed within the City Hall. So just to recap for you regarding that deficit. If we're going to maintain the current level of service standard of 0.33 square feet per capita, we're obviously going to need to look at where we should grow our libraries. I say that with a little hesitation because as we started this conversation, there is interest in looking at how your libraries have changed. In regards to circulation, your libraries still hold at approximately 2 million items circulated per year. In regards to foot traffic, that has drastically decreased. It's decreased by almost 50%. Okay? Why? One, obviously with electronic materials being more popular, people can access their reading materials online, on their phone, on their iPads, at home, on their desktops. People still have that balance of wanting to come into an actual building and interacting with staff for that public interaction. So while circulation has remained high, the actual foot traffic has decreased. So we'll need to take a very close look at that. Access to these services do not necessarily have to be in a 30,000 square foot building. I will go on record saying that. However, as the eastern part of Collier County continues to come online with the new villages and the towns that are being proposed for development, we will need to look at supporting library services for those areas. When you have families with young children, moms and dads want to bring their kids into the library. When you've got older kids, older adults that need that mobility and that access, they don't need as much space. So as we move forward, we will need to take a look at what you want your libraries to look like, what our best practices are in the profession of library, and we need to look at what we want to do next. And I am open to that conversation. I told the Planning Commission I would be more than happy to have that conversation with them. And for any specifics regarding trends in libraries, I do have my interim director here in attendance, Catherine Kauser, which I've been so far removed, she's got her pulse on the current best practices a little bit better than I do. I will let it be known for the record that in regards to planning, there is approximately 2.74 acres of land that is restricted for library use, and it resides in the Fiddler's Creek development. We share a piece of property with EMS. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you. I just have one. It may have already been answered. I don't know. But the 0.33 square, that formula we use, when was that adopted or how was it adopted?
You're going to tax my recollection. It's been at least 20 years. I did some research. I don't have it in front of me, but I think the last time the board changed the adoption of the library's level of service standards was back in 1987. So it may even be a little bit older than that.
When I had a BlackBerry 20 years ago, they were adopting this formula. So, yeah, and a lot has changed since then.
Correct.
It may be something we look into or find out how it does change or come up to speed with today's market. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and we'll look forward to that data.
Thank you, sir.
Good job, Daniel.
Mike Bosey again, zoning director. We had no other planned presentations from the Category B facilities. Any questions that you may have? One thing I would let the board know, in addition to our regional and our community parks, the county has about 2/3 of its land area that are set aside in federally or state protected parks as well. So even though those are more open, passive recreation areas, the majority of this county will never be developed based upon those set-asides in those restricted areas. And I just also wanted to mention the anomaly within the 2020 census and the lowering of that population, where it seems somewhat counter to what we feel and experiencing in terms of at least housing supply and demand and just overall activity within the county. We fully expect that there's probably going to be somewhat of a correction that's going to be provided for within the next AUIR, and that's another reason why it kind of benefits or shows the benefit of this annual opportunity to make sure that the trends are moving in the directions that we think that they are, and that we have a good handle upon what those expected demands will be over the next 5 and 10 years. But with that, any other questions the board may have?
We're all set. All right, gentlemen, we're...
And the staff is requesting a recommendation to approve the 2020 AUIR, and that should encompass all of the needed recommendations regarding the CIE as well.
Thank you. We're being called upon to accept and approve the 22 AUIR.
Recommendation to approve.
And I'll
Second.
that.
Second.
Accept and approve.
Accept and approve.
Been moved and seconded. We accept and approve the 22 AUIR. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign, same sound. So moved. Done.
Commissioners, we may want to talk a little bit about timing here. To start, item 9B, which is the Maple rezone. We do have some public here to speak on that item. So it's at your pleasure if you want to get that one started and stop it and pick it back up after lunch, or if you would like to take maybe one of the quick items here before noon, knock out maybe item...
Yeah, let's do 10B.
10B,
Let's
yep.
stay off of Bright Shores. I think we have time certain for...
No sooner than 1 p.m. for Bright Shores.
Right. What one were you talking about? Was a rezone? I thought you said it was 9D.
9B is the Maple Lane rezone, which also has, I believe, some citizens here. Troy? We have speakers on that as well, so it's going to...
10B is a good one.
Yeah, let's do 10B.
Okay.
And then Commissioner Saunders?
Mr. Chairman, on 10B, I had asked that to be added to the agenda. Just a quick update, and John Mullins is here to assist in that regard concerning the Veterans Nursing Home. The reason I wanted to bring this up, I had planned on being in Tallahassee today for a governor and cabinet meeting, at which time our project was to be officially approved by the governor and cabinet. That meeting was canceled, and we've now found out that we really probably don't need governor and cabinet approval, since we already have a letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs saying Collier County is designated as the next county to have a veterans nursing home. But because of some timing issues, we have our lobbyists working on this, and Senator Pasadomo is assisting in getting a letter that reflects that we are officially designated that. The reason that became important from a time perspective is we did get some very good news, and I'll have John Mullins kind of go through the details, but we got some very good news in terms of potential federal funding, which could occur as early as September, October of 2023. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to go ahead and get this letter of approval. We are also going to be looking for some state funding, and Senator Pasadomo has agreed to assist us in that regard. It's about $500,000 for design work and engineering work on that. And then we also have to make our final and formal commitment on the $30 million that we have in our sales tax pot of money. That has to be transferred to the state. And so we're in the process of working on an agreement with the state for the transfer of those dollars. And of course, if there's no veterans nursing home built, we'll get those dollars back. And we have a telephone call on Thursday to go through the process of getting that letter of approval and then getting that agreement worked out in terms of the transfer of those dollars. So everything's moving along. The good news is we could be out for bid on a project like this, and according to our time frame, as early as July of 2025. It's going to take that long to get the federal funding in place. That's going to take another year, year and a half, and then of course the design work. So I'd like to have Mr. Mullins, if he'd kind of go through that time frame a little bit. But that's where we are. We're moving, and Senator Pasadomo and our legislative delegation fully committed to this, and so all good news at this point.
For the record, John Mullins, your Director of Communications, Government and Public Affairs, and as the Commissioner said, we've got positive news we just received at the end of last week. I think credit has to be given here at this point to Commissioner McDaniel speaking on behalf of the board a week ago in this chamber at the legislative delegation meeting, where he said one of the priorities that we had in Collier County was trying to get this process formalized and moving. And lo and behold, at the end of the week, here we go, we've got a timeline from our friends at FDVA that kind of lay out a best case scenario. And I want to emphasize that word over and over again, best case scenario. On a project like this, you're dealing with county government, state government, and federal government all working together to get something done, and well, you can do the math at that point. So, you know, we're very efficient here, like Mr. Bosey said previously, but over this timeline, you're going to see a change in state administration, state personnel. You'll see a change probably in federal administration, federal personnel, and sometimes priorities can change. You can end up with congressional quagmires that hold up your funding from getting appropriated, et cetera. So we'll do the best we can to try to keep this thing on track. Starting with April 15th, which is kind of the first benchmark, this is where the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs will actually submit their intent to the federal VA of their plans to build the next nursing home here in Collier County for veterans. During the next regular session that starts here in March, the legislature will appropriate the $30 million that we provide based on the generosity of the taxpayers of Collier County in approving those funds. That will be appropriated to serve as the state's construction match, along with what Commissioner Saunders mentioned, about a $500,000 appropriation that will cover the design engineering costs. Now, this is something that was also provided to Marion County back in 2018, and this is basically leveling the playing field. The governor's recommendation letter that the commissioner alluded to earlier initially has us laid out as the number 9 nursing home, and Marion County is number 10. So we need now that $500,000 appropriation that Marion got before, because in 2014, when St. Lucie was anointed as the 8th location, Marion was actually number 2 at that point. We've kind of leapfrogged here. So we'll be receiving that $500,000. FDVA will put in that request, and President Pasadomo, of course, has pledged everything in her power to make sure that that gets through without issue. That will culminate on August 1st of next year with DVA sending a copy of the General Appropriations Act to the VA that certifies that we have the state match in hand. And that is a very important step, because that's what puts us in priority group 1, sub-priority 3 in the eyes of the federal government and the VA. Typically, Congress provides about $90 to $150 million in any given budget year to provide for nursing home construction for veterans. Typically, Priority Group 1, Sub-Priority 1 takes about $10 million of that. Sub-Priority 2 usually takes nothing because that's for states that have not previously received a construction grant, and as of 2 years ago, all states have received a construction grant. So there shouldn't be anyone in that category. Next would be us, so with 10 million gone, there's probably 80 to 140 million left, which pretty much guarantees at that point that Florida will get the federal construction match. Now, in October of 23, the VA will put that in their construction budget for the following fiscal year. And in October of 24, the VA will provide their 65% construction match to the state. In December of 24, DVA will send a budget amendment to the legislature requesting that all those funds then be appropriated for their use. And that will occur in March of 25 during the 2025 regular session. The legislature will appropriate the funds in totality, and then in July 1st of 25, FDVA will put out to bid the construction of the facility. A projected groundbreaking would take place a little bit later in the year, and then a short 2.5 years after that, the doors will open to the facility, probably with a gradual bringing in of veteran population based upon staffing. You have to have certain staffing ratios per veteran bed. As long as they have all staffing built up, they can bring in as many veterans as they have already on the waiting list to receive services.
Mr. Chairman, I think the only thing I would add, and I know that there may be some questions and comments, but first of all, I want to thank John Mullins for his effort. I also want to thank our lobbyists for their effort in moving this along, and of course our chairman for the presentation to the delegation. Everything is kind of coming together, which is nice to see. It's a time frame that is fairly lengthy, but that's what we have to live with. We don't have any way to shorten this. Perhaps maybe the construction period might be a little shorter. But Governor DeSantis had made the statement that he wanted Florida to be the most veteran-friendly state in the country. And I've said, and I know we've got veterans on this board that would, and everyone would agree, we want to make Collier County the most veteran-friendly county in the state. So this is a big step in that regard. And I just want to thank Mr. Mullins and our staff and the commission for supporting this project and moving it along.
Well, personally, I want to thank you. I've served with you for 6 years now, and this was something you campaigned on when you ran for election back in 16, and you and I and Commissioner LaCastro have worked hand in hand with the state, with the federal government to ensure that this is coming to fruition. And it's frustrating because it's government. I think John Mullins suggested it best, and when you have the federal, state, and local governments all trying to get on the same page, it's a interesting dynamic. So your diligence and stick-to-itiveness has really assisted in keeping this project moving forward, and I'm excited about it. So thank you as well. Do we need to take a vote on this or just accept it? Okay, it's accepted. Do we, and this is a pleasure, I know we have some public speakers for that 9B item. Do we want to try to manage that now, or you want to go to lunch and come back and take care of the rezoning after we come back?
Lunch, so we can.
All right, let's go to lunch. We will be back at 1:02 sharp.